Hi everyone, I'm Mike Green, Public Information Officer in the Allen County Commissioner's Office, and welcome to Countyline. Hi everyone, I'm Mike Green, Public Information Officer in the Allen County Commissioner's Office, and welcome to Countyline, the program featuring news and information about county government. We're in Fryman Square Park here in Fort Wayne, and before long, we're going to be into what a lot of people tell me is their favorite time of year, which is autumn. That's when these trees will soon turn to colors of brown and gold and yellow, and they'll be beautiful to the eye. And then the leaves are going to dry up and they're going to fall off, and we're not going to think they're so beautiful because we're having to get out the rake and we're having to get out the leaf blower, and we're going to have to collect all of these leaves. That's why autumn is a prevalent time of year for open burning to take place in Allen County. Now, in rural Allen County, most open burning is allowed, but there are still rules and regulations you need to keep in mind before you start that fire. Tony Burris is the Allen County Environmental Manager, and he's here to talk with us today about those rules and regulations to remind you about the things you need to keep in mind. First of all, Tony, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mike. Pleasure.
Let's make sure that folks are very clear on this at the outset, because we don't want Fort Wayne residents who get in trouble with the authorities to say, well, I saw those guys on cable TV tell us that we could burn in Allen County anywhere. That is not necessarily the case.
That is absolutely true. Most incorporated areas, cities and towns, have laws restricting no burning at all. It's the unincorporated areas that burning is permitted under the certain conditions as you have defined. It must be between 8 and 5. Wind speeds cannot be greater than 20 miles an hour. That's what does that mean? It's generally if you light a match and it blows out, your wind speeds are greater than 20 miles an hour.
Okay, so what people need to keep in mind is that they probably need to check with, say, your city clerk or town clerk if you live in an incorporated area, because they can tell you if they have restrictions that are stricter than the ones we have for Allen County in general. Otherwise, our laws
and the state law would be similar to ours.
Okay, so with that in mind, another thing we need to remind folks is that because you live in unincorporated Allen County, that in and of itself does not necessarily mean you can burn on your property. There are some things, some zoning regulations that they need to keep in mind.
Well, it's restricted to residential areas. Businesses are not permitted to burn. It is allowed in agricultural areas, but once again, you must follow the rules, of the time of day, the wind speeds, and the type of material.
And you're not allowed to burn in areas such as trailer parks or apartment complexes, I guess condensed residential areas.
Right. Generally speaking, single-family dwelling units are the areas that you can burn in.
Okay. Now let's talk about a few of the things you can and cannot burn.
Okay. Generally speaking, the basic rule is natural growth material of wood products that have originated on your property.
That's important.
That is important.
Because you're not looking to either start a little burning business on your property. Right. You don't want everybody congregating an entire neighborhood deciding to burn at once.
No, that is the first thing. The other thing is that, like I said, natural growth materials and wood products. And the wood products have to be untreated wood. It cannot have any stains or varnishes or paint which has been treated to preserve the wood.
Sure. Railroad ties, anything like that. Nothing that has chemicals on it.
Exactly.
You want it to be pure. You can, I know some people have perhaps old structures, really old barns that are barely standing up, and can they bring those down with fire if they want?
They can bring those down if it's in a zoning of agricultural.
Right.
They need to get a permit through their local fire department, the responding fire department. And there they will review to make sure that, all the materials like the shingles and things of that nature have been removed. And then at that time, at a designated time, they can burn at that time.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about some of the things. I know you just touched on them a moment ago. Some of the other rules and regulations involved, and that deals with the time of day and distances.
Distances has got to be 20 feet from the next nearest structure and 100 feet from the nearest fuel source. So, especially in the rural areas, you have propane tanks and fuel stored, and it needs to be 100 feet from there. We have, and it shouldn't be on public roadways as well. It's got to be 20 feet from there as well.
And as you mentioned, you don't want to start the fire before 8.
No.
You don't want to add to it after 5:30.
No.
That doesn't mean you start one at 4, but you don't want to be adding to it after that.
No.
And again, just to re-emphasize what you said about wind speed.
Wind speed is no greater than 20 miles an hour. And like we said, when the wind, because the wind could flare up at any time and take this material or that fire onto the next property or create problems for you on your own property. And regardless, if it leaves your property, you're still liable.
And we see these cases out west all the time with wildfires, and I'm sure they're thinking, well, that couldn't possibly happen here. And no, we're not as dry, certainly, as out west, but you ask any professional firefighter, and they're going to tell you that it doesn't take much wind to spread a fire, get it out of control, and once it's out of control, they have a really tough time trying to handle it.
Exactly. If they can't respond to it and quickly in 3 minutes, you have a problem.
Okay. Now, there are other cases where fires are permitted for things, especially this time of year. Schools have homecomings, and they want to have a bonfire before the football game. Scout groups are out with campfires, et cetera, et cetera. Talk to us a little bit about those exceptions for those kinds of situations.
Cooking fires and campfires are permitted at any time as long as you use common sense.
Right.
You certainly don't want to be creating a problem near a structure or a fuel source. The bonfires or ceremonial fires, we ask that you get a permit through your responding fire department. They may want to be there on the scene. They may want to make sure that there's sufficient breakage away from any structure or other fuel material, whatever will be there.
And while these aren't necessarily rules and regulations, some common sense advice. For one thing, make sure you've got certain implements there to help you out in case things start getting out of hand.
Exactly. A water,
good water source, right?
Water source, fire extinguisher that may help, because if you can break it or knock it down initially, that helps. Shovels, rakes, whatever you can do to help smother out a fire.
And don't walk away from it.
And it should be attended at all times.
Okay. Well, these days, a lot of folks are environmentally conscious, and they don't necessarily want to burn leaves, but they still need to get rid of them in an environmentally safe way. One way to do that is through composting, and it's something you can do
in your own backyard.
In
your own backyard, you can compost. Gather the materials as long as you continually turn it, which allow the aeration and microbiation to go on. This it will break the materials down.
Okay. And you can find out a lot of information about composting. Tony also is head of the Solid Waste Management District, and their website, acwastewatcher, all one word, .org, has a lot of information on there about composting and some steps, some how-to ways to go about it. And it's beneficial not only for the environment, but beneficial for you, because you can use that.
But many people put it around as a soil supplement, and it's great for flower beds and things of that nature as well.
Good homemade stuff.
Yes, it is.
Tony, thanks a lot for being with us. We appreciate it. Hopefully we've reminded folks about some of the things they need to keep in mind. If they've got questions or need more information, how can they get that?
They can call my office, Safety Environmental, or they can 449-7265. They can go on to the website for the Solid Waste District regarding composting. There's also the 2 large compost sites that we didn't mention. At 6202 Lake Avenue and 6231 Macbeth Road. You can take your materials out there as well. One last note, regardless if there are times that you followed all the rules.
Right.
And because the material may be moist or whatever, it's creating a smoke nuisance. If that is the case, you may be asked to put that out. And, we ask that you cooperate that because it is creating an issue for your neighborhood or your other neighbors.
And if a person has a complaint, they should call your office also.
Yes, that is correct.
If someone's causing a problem with burning in your area, contact Tony's office. They'll investigate it and take whatever steps necessary.
Right.
And if you're also wanting to know more about the Allen County rules and regulations, the Allen County Code that deals with open burning can be found online at our website, www.allencounty.us. If you look for the county code, what you're looking for is Title 8, which is public safety, and then Article 20, it's called Air Pollution Control Ordinance, but that deals with open burning.
Yes.
You can review everything we talked about here and a little more to find out what you need to keep in mind if you're going to be out open burning. Again, Tony, thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate it. Hope people stay safe out there if they're going to be doing open burning on their property. Thank you. Well, with the arrival of autumn, we've got a lot of fall-type things to think about this time of year. One thing that you probably aren't thinking about is flu season, because we generally tend to think of that in terms of winter and early spring. But fall is the perfect time to think about getting an immunization to help you fight flu symptoms this year. Candy Statt is the Director of Immunization Services for the Fort Wayne Allen County Department of Health, and we are at their clinic on New Haven Avenue to talk to her a little bit about what to expect for the flu season, what kind of immunizations and vaccines are out there, and how you can get prepared for what's to come. First of all, Candy, thanks for joining us again, as always.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we always talk about it, but it doesn't always resonate with people that now is the time to start thinking about it.
That's true. Typically in the past, people have waited till October, November to receive their flu vaccine. This year, the CDC is recommending immediately as soon as the vaccine is available, which it is available now, so we have started vaccinating.
You were telling me beforehand, you're already seeing a couple of cases of respiratory influenza.
We think that we may have seen a couple of cases, very ill people, so Dr. McMahon and we're all recommending get your flu vaccine as early as you can.
What are you hearing from the Centers for Disease Control and other federal health officials about what we can expect in terms of a bad season, a mild season?
It's very hard for them to tell, but they're saying be prepared because it could be another bad one. People could get it, and if they're not protected with the flu vaccine, when I say get it, I mean the flu, and you're very ill with the flu. High temperatures, body aches, influenza is respiratory, and it can go into pneumonia. So they just want to protect against that because once you get it, you're pretty sick.
And we are talking about the respiratory, not the stomach flu.
Correct. We're talking about respiratory, not stomach flu.
Now, we have some of the different vaccines that you have here. You were telling me that you have something new this year in terms of vaccine.
Yes, for the first time this year, we have what we call a quadrivalent. It has 4 antigens against 4 different strains of flu. We also have the trivalent. Trivalent's 3 strains. Typically, we have 2 A strains and a B strain for influenza, one of the A strains being the H1N1. And this year, we have 2 strains, a quadrivalent available, which is 2 strains of A and 2 strains of B. The second strain of B that's put in, typically young children get, and so we're trying to protect the young kids with a B, is what was one of the big purposes of it. So all VFC flu vaccine is quadrivalent this year.
What's the difference between A and B?
It's just different strains of flu that they have, and we put in our flu vaccines what they've seen around the world come forward because it comes around the world, and so we put in what the WHO recommends to put in. And
as I understand it, the vaccines contain the flu virus, or is that explain a little bit about that, because I think people kind of hear that kind of thing. They think, well, then how is it that I'm not getting the flu by getting the vaccine?
Okay. Inactivated flu vaccine. And inactivated means that they do not have the flu vaccine, the flu virus in it itself. It is inactivated. What your body replicates. It causes your body to think that it's there, and it replicates the flu to protect you against it, builds antibodies against it. There is a live virus, which is the nasal mist, which is a little bit more aggressive, and it causes a better reaction to it, antibody production.
And I know some people have concerns about getting vaccinated, especially the injection. What can you tell them that will kind of allay some of those fears and concerns?
Many people don't get the flu vaccine because they think they get the flu from the flu vaccine, and that is not true because there's nothing active in there that they can receive. They can kind of feel, a little tired, but that's because their body's working to build the antibodies so they don't receive the flu. That's a fallacy. That's the biggest fallacy of why people don't receive the flu vaccine is that they're going to get the flu from getting it. They don't. They get protection. And if they get tired, it's because their body is working so that they are protected.
Now, we talked about the flu mist that you'll have again this year, this time the quadrivalent. Who is recommended to get this and who can't use the flu mist?
Okay, flu mist is only recommended through 2 to 49 years of age. People who have history of asthma cannot receive it, and pregnant women cannot receive it. But if you are healthy and you're anywhere from 2 years to 49 years of age, you can get it. And the nice thing about the mist is just you inhale it a little bit, and you're done. It's not an injection. We also have this year the intradermal, which is the very small needle that's not right into, it's not the long needle. People who are afraid of needles like the intradermal.
I'm not crazy about needles, but and there are, as always, specific age groups and folks with specific conditions who really do need to get this.
Right, and we recommend anybody above the age of 6 months should get it. Babies under the age of 6 months cannot be protected against it until they get their flu shot. So anybody that's around infants, we recommend that they have it to protect that infant. Elderly definitely need the flu vaccine because, when they get ill, it's harder on their system. So there is a high dose for the elderly also, which has a little bit more antibodies in it. And the reason they do that is because it's harder as we get older for our body to build antibodies. So they put a little bit more in it so that there's more for them to build on.
Okay, and you have your supply in for now. And how do people get vaccinated here at your clinic?
We do have our supply in, and they would call, we do appointment only, and they would call 449-7514 and ask to get, say that they're wanting a flu shot. And the girls at the desk will tell them what's available and schedule an appointment.
Now, what kind of cost is involved for the people getting the vaccine?
We charge the true cost of the vaccine, and the mist is $30. The high dose, I believe, is $35. The intradermal would be $24. And then just a regular trivalent shot would be $19.
And again, this is the actual cost. It's not a profit-making deal or anything like that.
We charge the actual cost plus a small admin fee, but the cost I just gave is what they would be charged.
Now, there are other places, obviously your family physician, if you want to get it there, but there are other places that give flu shots as well.
Yes, pharmacies can now give the flu shots without a script to give them, and so all the CVS, the Walmarts, and the Kroger pharmacies have them available. And like you said, their family care docs. If they're children, Super Shots has it available.
And in terms of other things that people can do, obviously you want to get the shot. It's not 100%. I mean, it really gives you a good protection. But there are the common sense things people need to remember as we get into the winter months and the flu season really ramps up, things to keep in mind to do to help protect them as well as prevent the spread.
Correct. Biggest thing is hand washing. Also, don't cough into your hand. Don't cough into somebody's face. But the biggest really thing is hand washing and good hygiene because you get rid of those germs. If you cough into a Kleenex, throw it away. Get rid of it. Cough into your sleeve, instead of coughing right at.
The vampire cough, I've heard.
Cough, yes. That became popular during H1N1. Right. So, but definitely not coughing directly at somebody. If you're ill, if you're not feeling good and you're running a fever, stay home. Stay away from people. Protect them and yourselves.
Candy, thanks a lot for your time as always. I know we push this message out every year, but it's an important message to get out because, as you said, besides the fact you feel really lousy if you get the flu, it can evolve into something much more serious, potentially, we don't scare people, but potentially deadly if you don't take care of it.
Correct. It can.
And so, folks, remember, You can contact the office here. What's that number again?
449-7514.
And then you come out New Haven Avenue, close to the City of New Haven line, and that's where the health department clinic is located, not downtown, but out on New Haven Avenue. And they'll get you set up and hopefully get you protected against the flu for this season. Thanks again, Candy.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are standing on what will eventually be the extension of the Fogwell Parkway off of Lafayette Center Road, the General Motors truck assembly plant in the background. And what's behind me, and also all the way around, in fact, is the Stonebridge Development. This is one of Allen County's newest and biggest developments. These things don't pop up overnight. It takes a lot of work and a lot of expertise to bring these kind of developments to our community. And with us today are a couple of people who are involved with the Department of Planning Services and their Economic Development Division. Nikki Leiter is a specialist in the department. And we also have with us Rich Beck. He's the president of the Allen County Redevelopment Commission. And we're going to talk to each of them about their various roles in getting economic development going here in Allen County. First of all, Nikki and Rich, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nikki, a lot of people think of Department of Planning Services as far as planning and zoning and land use. Tell us a little bit about the Economic Development Division and the work that's done there.
With economic development, we're looking at tax breaks like tax abatement. We're looking at potential developers in the community, people that want to expand. We help with those projects. We also serve as staff to the Redevelopment Commission, to our county council, and to our county commissioners. So we're just here to kind of help spread economic development and help companies with their needs in our community.
You work closely, I'm sure, with the Land Use Division because they know all about what areas are zoned properly and can, I guess, move people in quickly if they need to.
Correct. They do have an expedited permitting process that they can go through depending on, if they qualify. We can help with that. So we do work very close with land use and with zoning if something needs to be rezoned.
And Rich, let's talk about the Redevelopment Commission and exactly, because people may not be that familiar with it. Tell us a little bit about the work that's done with the commission.
Well, the Redevelopment Commission, essentially, we were involved in what they call TIF districts, which is another tool that's used to induce investment into the community. And about 4 or 5 years ago, we took on a task of land banking. And the land banking is really where the Redevelopment Commission goes out and actually acquires land for the purpose of what we call product development. Bring it up to speed, bring in the improvements that need to be taking place so that when companies are looking for a place to move, they're not just looking at a parcel of dirt. They're looking at a parcel that has all the amenities and all the infrastructure in place and ready to go. So that's really the role of redevelopment now, has been the acquisition of land, improvement of the land, and Stonebridge is really, I guess, our flagship in that effort. We have 3 other zones that we have purchased land in. One is the Ryan Road area, about SDI. The other one is Bluffton Road East, which is the General Mills area. We own land around there. And then this site here, Stonebridge, which is directly across from the General Motors plant, is a facility where we've had a great deal of interest since the county has acquired the parcels of land, a great deal of interest from developers to locate some businesses here. And we felt that the only way to really get businesses here was to put the effort into upgrading this and creating what they call shovel-ready, which is really kind of a misnomer, but a certified site so that it has the water, sewer, streets, street lights, and everything ready to go for businesses.
It expedites a company's ability to get in quickly.
Absolutely, and that's a great point because that is really critical today is timing. Once they make a decision, it may take them a while to make that decision, but once they make that decision, they want it done as quickly as possible. So the more front-end work that Nikki and her group can do to sort of grease that way, it really is critical for us.
And Nikki, I mentioned at the outset that these things don't pop up overnight. Kind of give us a little idea, using Stonebridge, I guess, as an example of the kind of time and work that has to be done in order to get something like this even to this point.
As Rich stated, we started with the land banking program about 4 or 5 years ago. Since then, it's kind of been pretty busy, especially with Stonebridge. Just in this last year, we've done everything from, well, I should say since about the middle of 2011, we've done everything from purchasing the land and getting it ready with surveys and phase ones and wetland delineations and talking with the neighbors. There's just a lot of different processes that go into everything. So even though it sounds like it's taken a few years, it's actually, this particular project has really spun off within the last 8-9 months.
We talked a little bit, Rich, about incentives, and I know because of your position at Star Bank also, you're familiar with the kind of competition that's going on outside of Allen County, not only to draw new businesses to those areas, but also to even come in and maybe pick some of ours away. So talk a little bit about the other incentives that a community like Allen County has the ability to offer a business that either exists or is looking to come here.
Right. Well, probably the biggest incentive is the tax phase-in, where we defer property taxes on a property so that it gives the business an incentive to come here. We put them in a TIF district with the tax increment financing, which means the tax revenue generated within that district stays in that district to improve and add infrastructure to that. So the incentives are kind of mind-boggling sometimes, because you'll see neighborhoods, or I should say communities, are really desperate for jobs. And they will put packages together that you kind of scratch your head and you wonder, how can they just give everything away? I mean, there comes a point when it just doesn't make economic sense to do the giveaway. So I think a lot of communities are recognizing that and realizing that you need to provide incentives, but you need to be reasonable about it.
It's really a balancing act. Yes, we understand we're giving up some on this end, but the hope is that this business or industry is going to be able to provide enough to cover that, and then some on the other end.
That's exactly right. You know, the whole purpose of bringing business here is because it increases the tax base, and then you increase the number of employees, and we're looking for higher paying jobs, because that's what really increases your tax base and offsets that expense you have up front, because there is an upfront expense. So that too is a balancing act. We don't want to discourage all jobs, but we do have our eyes, a vision on a certain level of hourly positions that we want to make things work economically.
Nikki, tell us about some of the other folks that DPS and your division work with in the community to make some of these things come true.
Sure. We work closely with our surveyor's office. We work closely with our highway department, especially with this particular project. With them bidding out the work. We've also done some projects where we've done a joint partnership with the city, depending on what the needs are of the company that's trying to expand in the community. So there's just a lot to be offered. It's just a way of making it happen.
And Rich, from your perspective, what else do we need to be doing here in this community to help bring more industry in and help those who are already here grow bigger?
That's a great question, Mike. I think the thing that I see is that as a community, we need to coalesce together and realize really what we have to offer. I think, we kind of look at it and we think, oh, it's just Fort Wayne, it's Allen County. What do we really have to offer? But as you look around the country, there's a lot that Allen County and Fort Wayne have to offer. And it's just the residents recognizing what is here and talk about it and realize that what we have is great stuff. We really do have a lot of things to offer. And we just kind of don't do that. We're our own worst enemies when it comes to economic development. We just don't think about us as being a competitor. We're a viable competitor in that marketplace. We get a lot of looks, a lot of interest.
Are the problems we're having with the economy, there are those who feel we're getting better. We'll leave that for folks to debate one way or the other, but are we starting to see the kind of upturn in the economy that's going to help not only Allen County but the rest of Indiana in terms of bringing industry in?
We're fortunate in Indiana. We have a pretty good economy here. The measures that have been taken over the past few years have positioned us very well. And so we're very attractive to businesses. We get a lot of inquiries from businesses out of state that want to come here because of the appeal. So our economy has really been pretty resilient with a good financial basis. We are seeing at a national level some indicators that the economy would be turning around. It's a slow process. It's been a very slow recovery for us. But I think, again, another good reason to look at Fort Wayne, Allen County is the financial position and the strength that we've carried through. And the diversification that we've got going here. Absolutely. We have a great diversification. One of the other attracting factors for business is a quality workforce and a well-trained workforce. And we have that here, and that's a huge factor when they consider coming here.
And Nikki, with this development here at Stonebridge, Is there the opportunity for, I guess, some spillover, I guess, for lack of a better term, for industries like a GM or others that are around here that, as this develops, they see the possibility of doing more with their facilities?
Sure, and we've already had a spillover. We've got one company down the road here, Android Industries. We also had a newer one that's building just down here on a Boyd that's also helping with GM products. So it's already happening.
Starting to see it build up along the way. What's the specific plan for this development here at Stonebridge, and what kind of timetable are you looking at?
Specifically, we do have a development plan that divides this into 12 different lots. Those aren't etched in stone. They range anywhere from, I want to say, about 12 acres down to about 4 or 5 acres. But again, those aren't etched in stone. They're just kind of laid out for the purposes of going in front of the Plan Commission. So right now, that's just what we're looking at. As far as what you see here, we are developing the roads. We are extending Fogwell, and we are also going to extend Stonebridge, and that will run from the east side of the park all the way over to the west. And we are looking at, constructing a few of the pads back in the acres back towards the back of the park. So
hopefully, when do you think this will all be finished? Is there any idea yet?
I don't know about a finish time. We still have some potential projects that would like to move in, so we'll work with those first.
Hopefully it won't be anytime soon. We'll just keep building and building out here. Rich and Nikki, thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate it, for telling us about Stonebridge and also about the work that your respective agencies is doing to try to bring better and more economic development to our community. We appreciate it. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of County Line. Don't forget, if you want, let me try again, 5, 4, 3, 2. And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of County Line. If you're watching this program on Public Access TV and you want to review one of the segments, or if you want to watch one of our previous County Line programs, don't forget that you can go to our video on demand site that we share with the City of Fort Wayne and Allen County Public Library to view any of those. You get there by going to our website, www.allencounty.us, and then look for the Video on Demand button. I'm Mike Green, the Public Information Officer in the Allen County Commissioner's Office, and we hope to see you again next time on County Line.